Hello everyone. So I'm live on Virtual Lawyer for a live webinar on the topic of matrimonial law, intricacies in family law and matrimonial law. So I think people are joining me. Hello to everyone. Myself, Advocate Juhi Arora from Supreme Court of India. I'm here today on Virtual Lawyer for having a topic on matrimonial problems, matrimonial law, so that the viewers who are students, who are law graduates, or who are interns, or who are a layman common person can correlate with the problems which I'll be coming up with this webinar today. First of all, before I start, I would like to give my thanks to Janvi and the team of Virtual Lawyer who has started this beautiful series of webinar so that good information can be provided to the viewers and we can utilize the best time of our lockdown these days. I hope I am audible to everybody so that I can start with it. In case if some glitch comes while the webinar, please keep on messaging or put it down on the message so that I can see that whether there is a glitch or not, because at times there is some connectivity problems which happens during these webinars. So I'll try my best. So let's start with the today's topic. Basically today's topic is to somebody who is actually having these problems and also who wants to pursue their law and to their career in the matrimonial field, the family field. These days, you won't imagine, I am getting so much calls because of these lockdown problems. These violence have been so much escalated due to these kind of lockdown and these in quarantine period when people are not able to go out of their houses and they're only busy up with the spouses and their own household things. So these things have been escalated now these days. But today's webinar is on the problems and the basically intricacies of the matrimonial law, what basically the problems come across to the people and what are their solutions, and solutions are also based upon the problems and coordinating it with the proper judgments of the Supreme Courts, of the superior courts, where what they have held. So you might be able to know about your rights, that what rights exactly we are having if we are facing this kind of a problem and what kind of remedy we have if we are facing these kinds of matrimonial problems. The matrimonial problems are very much wide. The matrimonial law is so wide. It's not only constrained to the husband and wife dispute relating to divorce or maintenance or custody. It is too wide that one piece of litigation converts into 100 of litigations, 10s, 15s of litigations, and so much of other laws are being involved in this matrimonial problems that we have to have a knowledge of both the sides of the civil and the criminal, both of them. Because if the lawyer who is actually having a practice of matrimonial law have to have been a knowledge of civil and criminal both, because they both go hand in hand when we talk about the matrimonial side. So now we'll talk with one problems with the solutions and what the court has held in that particular problems, how we can approach to the court, what would be the correct forum, what would be the legal remedy for that. I would be sharing from my experience and my own piece of work which I have done, my expertise which I have done in this field. So I would request whosoever wants to come with the questions, we can have a last 10 minutes for question and answer sessions. So now let's start with the civil side of matrimonial problems. What are the problems which actually connect to a civil lawyer or a civil side of a matrimonial problems? One is that basically there are suit for injunctions which can be filed by the woman when they are facing some problems in the matrimonial home, like if she has an apprehension for the matrimonial property being alienated, or matrimonial property being get mortgaged, if she has an apprehension that she can be thrown out of the house. So these kinds of apprehensions can be covered in the civil aspect also by filing suit for injunctions. So they have a remedy of approaching to the civil courts through family courts under the Family Act, so that they can have the suit for injunctions against the husband, against for alienating or mortgaging the property. Then we have another course of action that is called anti-suit injunction. What is that anti-suit injunction? Anti-suit injunction is basically that if the couple is having a inter-country dispute. There are couples who are having an inter-country dispute. What is that inter-country dispute? It's basically when you are sitting in India and you have shifted to India, but you were having a livelihood at some other country for some point of time with a husband. So in that case, once you have shifted to India and you have been married in India, your child has been born in India, but due to some of the matrimonial issues or relationships, you will be staying there in some other country. So in that case, what is the remedy of a lady have? There was a client who approached me 2 years back saying that my husband has got a summons issued against me from the court of Germany, and she has received those summons related to the matrimonial, divorce, and also to the custody. So she approached me. We have got a case of anti-suit injunction. We filed in the Delhi High Court, and by the God's grace, after having a long length discussion at the court and arguments, we were being able to get an anti-suit injunction. What was that? That injunction was basically we restrained the husband from filing or prosecuting any case against the wife or against the children of that particular lady in the court of Germany, because the jurisdiction we made it was in India, because there were some parameters, there were some conditions which were being fulfilled by the lady. Though we were walking on a very thin ice, but still we tried it, and by the God's grace we got that judgment. If you want to note down, you can get it down. Charanjit Kaur versus Dr. Vijayan Sabharwal. You can easily find it, and if somebody is not able to find it or not locate the judgment during this webinar, they can request the concerned person of the virtual team. I can coordinate with them and I can produce these judgments, and I can send the data of these judgments to the concerned persons. So now this kind of a remedy is also available. Generally, we do not even know that anti-suit injunction is also kind of a remedy which is available to the parties. We do not have any options. But then if tomorrow somebody turns up to you with some problems, then you should know these kinds of remedies are available. Because if you know these kinds of remedies are available, then only you will be able to guide your client, or a client would be able to be known about these cases, these judgments. So they will have some confidence in them to come and fight with, and they will be having some awareness of the legal rights. So that is the more major concern of these kinds of webinars. Then what else of the civil side says about the matrimonial problems? Then we can also have a suit for property, the partition and declaration. You know, basically when you have the property in your wife's name and you have purchased the properties in your wife's name, and the source of income of the purchase of the property was from your end, and if you can fully prove to it, then there is a judgment of Delhi High Court which says that by the name of, that was being given by Justice Valmiki Mehta ji, by Manoj Arora versus Mamta Arora. It was in 2018, which says that it was a landmark judgment which says that if property being purchased in the name of the wife, but you have the sources of income to prove that you have purchased it, so it will not come under the prohibition, it will not come under the Benami Transaction Act, it will go under the proviso of that particular. So it held that if the property has been purchased in the name of the wife, will fall in the exception to the prohibition of the Benami Transaction Act. So because these kinds of problems are regular problems and it is generating regularly. Anybody who is into matrimonial practice will listen to these normal and very basic problems, that I have taken a property in the name of the wife, now we have estranged relationships, what I have to do, how can I recover it, and what if she can throw me out of the house because the property is on the name of the wife. So this kind of remedy is also available to the husband, so you can guide it. And if the viewer who is as a litigator is a viewer here, so you yourself can understand that you have a right and a legal remedy. You can approach to the court of law related to these kinds of remedies. So this will come into a civil side. What else? Civil side is also coming across when you are seeking for the divorce petition, you're having the judicial separation, you can have section 9 with what all these, we can have the nullity petition in the court. What are all these? Let's come one by one. One is the divorce. Everybody knows that the divorce petition can be filed against the wife, and it comes in the family court, and it is a civil side of the court. So why I am discussing today, everybody knows that if you are having a dispute, you can easily approach to the court of law for a divorce. But why I am basically concerning here for the divorce is that there was a judgment which I myself has done it. I was a lawyer in that particular case, and there was a glitch where I argued the matter from the lower court. Somehow we did not get through in that particular lower court, but when we went to the appeal, the Delhi High Court granted the divorce to my client, and it came into newspapers. Next day the judgment was being reported. It was by the name of Manish Kumar versus Sandhya Kumari. Manish Kumar versus Sandhya Kumari. It came in 21st October 2016. That judgment, what that judgment says, it says that my client got the divorce on the irretrievable breakdown of marriage. What the ground is? Irretrievable breakdown of marriage. You must have listened about it, but because as it is not a law yet, it is just on a precedent. It comes with the Supreme Court precedents, because the court has taken this ground as a precedent in other cases. So we have also placed this on the record. I myself argued this matter, and somehow by the God's grace we have got to I've got to get a relief for my client, and the irretrievable breakdown of marriage was the ground where my client was being granted a decree of divorce. So we basically twisted the facts, and we tried to make the court understood by having alliance with the court that the said marriage has been irretrievably break down, because they were been litigating from so long. The marriage sustained only for 6 months. They do not have any child out of the said wedlock, and this judgment has now been reported, and this judgment has now been given as a precedent in coming cases also. So it's a very good judgment. You should listen to it, and you should read it, so it can help you in for your near future. If some kind of a client comes up to you with this kind of a related facts, you can read the facts from the judgment itself. So this was the another ground. As we know, there are so many grounds in divorce, but this ground is not there in the Hindu Marriage Act, because generally clients have this problems, and normal laymen have the tendency to ask again and again the same question, that I am not living with my wife since so many years, we've been separated since 2 years, so I should get a divorce. So they should understand that this is again a discretion of the court. This is one of the ground in moving an application in the court of law for divorce. It is not that if you're living again without your wife or without your husband, then the court immediately will grant you a divorce. No, it is just a ground. They will follow their own procedure. The testimonies have to be looked out, the evidence has to be led, and arguments have to be done. Then only court will think, yes, this can be one of the basic funda or a ground for filing it, that this is a desertion or separation. But of course you cannot you cannot directly approach on the way that, yes, today I've got the separation and tomorrow I should get a divorce. They will follow the whole structure. So this Manish versus Sandhya Kumari judgment will give you that there is another ground of irretrievable breakdown of marriage, which is likely to be coming up in the Hindu marriage law. We are expecting it. Then what is N? Then now the problem also can be sorted out through mutual consent. Mutual consent is also a civil side. Why I am focusing on these things? Because it has something different concept with a normal concept. That is why I am coming up with these things. Because everybody knows mutually हम divorce ले सकते हैं, but इसमें कुछ खास है. That is why I am coming up with these things. इसमें खास ये है कि there was a judgment which came in 2017 by Amardeep Singh versus Harveen Kaur. I was there on a talk show of this particular judgment, on this particular seminar for this particular judgment, which says that there is a cooling off period of 6 months in mutual consent from between first motion to second motion. But then this second motion cooling off period can be waived off by virtue of this judgment, and if the facts have been similar and if you lay some concrete conditions have been fulfilled, then the court can have the discretion to choose and to allow your application to waive off that 6 months. So now clients who are already been deprived of and who have already been fed up of litigation for long years, they do not have to wait for another 6 months to get a second motion of divorce. They can easily avail the second motion also just after 1 month of the first motion. But then there are some other conditions. You have to fulfill that. What are those conditions? That minimum separation should be 18 months. You should have some proper settlement. The parties have settled their dispute about the custody. No dispute has been pending. Some glitch is not there in the settlement. So these conditions have to be fulfilled. Then only court will allow you for second motion. Generally, but now courts have been allowing. So now what else? You can also go for judicial separation. This is also one of the case where you can ask for judicial separation. Judicial separation is different from divorce, where you are just apart from bed and board. That's what we call in a small word, that you do not have a sexual relationship. Court can allow you to have a halt on that, and court can also allow you to have a discussed feature on the particular monetary aspects and the custody aspect. Still you will have a marital judicial separation. The name of there was a judgment in judicial separation. Yeah, Sohan Lal versus Kamlesh. Sohan Lal versus Kamlesh. That was a judgment which says that even after judicial separation decree, court can ask the husband to maintain a wife if she is not able to maintain herself. So it was a very wonderful judgment which came, that even if you have a judicial separation, then also court can ask you to maintain your wife if she is not able to maintain herself. So condition is again over here. So you have to fulfill that. Then what else? You can also go for nullity, annulment. What is that? Nullity is also one of the remedy. If somebody approaches you and say that I've got married 6 months back and I've got to know some fraud has been occurred to me by my husband, what solution you can give? Only a divorce is not a solution you're left with. You can also give a solution of nullity. That is called annulment. That you can ask the client to have a petition of annulment in the court under section 12 of HMA, and you can have the marriage annulled rather than marriage being divorced. So this is also, these kinds are, so apart from divorce, you have so many other remedies. Generally we are not able to understand this, only we are able to get it when we are in practice and we have an experience of all these. Learn, my seniors have made me learn, the courts have made me learn. So now what is the next civil side of it? The next civil side of the matrimonial dispute is that you can file the suit for eviction, you can get the suit for defamation. There was a couple who was staying in a rented accommodation. My client was a husband therein. He asked me that I have to move out because there have been regular violence has been created by my wife. I do not want to fall in a trap. I have to move out. He left the premises. Somehow wife was still there in the premises. She was not leaving the premises. Meanwhile, the landlord asked for suit for eviction. So these kinds of cases and these kinds of laws are being involved in matrimonial. So it's not that the matrimonial law ka ambit, the total jurisdiction is too much. It's two-way. You have to have the knowledge of all the cases which is coming across, because one or the other things are directly or indirectly proportional to it. So there was a case where the husband and wife has filed a suit for defamation against each other, because the wife has approached the husband's office and he defamed something. So what these things have been there. You can also seek for suit for defamation for against the partner if they have defamed you publicly. The suit for defamation is also the civil side, and there is a defamation in IPC also. So you can also go for complaint case of defamation. You can get the FIR lodged under the IPC of defamation also. So now what else? What else you have the remedy? If there is also habeas corpus writ. Habeas corpus writ can also be filed in the high courts. What that the most common writ which is filed in the matrimonial side is the habeas corpus only, which has been filed under Article 226 and 227 of the Constitution. This writ basically gives the courage or gives the remedy to get the knowledge or information about the person who has been detained or who has been going underground. What tomorrow if someone take the child away from somebody, then the client comes to you and says that my husband has taken the child without my knowledge, without my information, and he has now he has gone underground. So what remedy you have apart from police complaints? Because at times police do not take action, and if they even take action, you do not get the relief. Then you can easily go to the habeas corpus writ. You can file before the High Court, and you can seek the intervention of the court for passing a directions to the state and also to the concerned person who is the respondent to come up with the information that where the child is. So it's a beautiful and it's a wonderful way to get the knowledge about it. As there was a case where we have filed a writ also about the custody of the child, about the information of the child which was being taken away from the jurisdiction of the husband or the wife illegally without any information. Now, side by side, when we are already coming with the custody, let us start with custody now. Now, if the civil side is also coming to the custody, everybody knows that if you have a matrimonial dispute, you can ask the custody from the woman. A father can ask the custody, a woman can ask the custody of the child who is not in the custody of the child from the other party. But then, why I am coming up with the custody also? Because there is some important thing which you can note down, that generally this is the very common fact. When the child has been removed from the custody of the person, then the concerned person have to go to the court of law. But from where? From the area, from the jurisdiction where the child was already residing, or from the jurisdiction where the child has been taken now. So this is actually a question where what we have to do is that the really solution that we have to file it from the child, because as per the law you have to file the custody petition where the child is residing, and as per the precedents there have been judgments which says that if the child has been taken out from the permanent custody of somebody as a temporary move out, then that temporary movement will not count to that particular jurisdiction. So this judgment came in 2013 by Manish Sehgal versus Meenu Sehgal by Delhi High Court, which says that removing a child from a permanent custody and getting it to a temporary custody is not that you have to go and file that if a boy was already residing in a Bombay, he was getting education in Bombay, but now I've been taken out to the Agra, so you will not go and file the case in Agra. You can go with the precedents in the Bombay only. So this is one of the facts. And also there is a judgment which says that section by the Supreme Court in 2019, which by the name of Anuj Chaturvedi versus Jyoti. Anuj Chaturvedi versus Jyoti, which says that the child has to have the affection of both the parties. Why I am saying that the wife or the husband cannot be denied for visitation of the child. Parents cannot be deprived of meeting the child. They cannot be deprived of having the visitation of the child. It means that this is because this is the first sword which generally women have, that if you have a matrimonial problems, you सबसे पहले यही होता है कि बच्चे से मिलवाना बंद कर दिया जाता है, जो कि मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है, जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा एक स्वॉर्ड की तरह काम करता है इमोशनली किसी को परेशान करने के लिए. So then, but there is a precedent which says that there is a judgment, there is a plethora of judgments on the custody, which are the child favoring, because the paramount consideration in these kinds of cases is the welfare of the child. So looking that into the picture, there was a judgment by the Supreme Court in 2019 which says that the woman can, a child cannot be deprived of the rights of both the of having the visitation of and the love and affection of both the parties. So parents basically. So this is one of the cases where the child custody also comes into the civil side of the matrimonial problems. Right now I am coming with those cases which can be filed in the civil side. Now what other thing is that? Now there was a judgment in 2017 which actually somewhere set the benchmark that 25% of the salary of the net worth or the salary of the husband can be constituted to a alimony. But again, it should lay some conditions like that amount should be befitting the status of both the parties. Then the husband or the basically husband should have a capacity to pay it also. So these two things also they have kept in mind before making this judgment out by the Supreme Court in 2017 by the name of Rakesh Malhotra versus Krishna Malhotra, which came in 2000. Mutual consent done and the alimony have been received by the lady, so she cannot claim the maintenance again if she has already get the alimony once in mutual consent. So now coming to the last sides of the civil side is also that the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act. If a widow have approached you saying that my husband has been dead and after the death of my husband I have been thrown out of this matrimonial home, what remedies I should have? The widow can file a case against the in-laws in the Code of Law under Domestic Violence Act, and also she can file the case under Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act, where a judgment which came in 2015 by Justice M.Y. Iqbal which says that if the already the share of the husband is already there in the property, the widow will have the share of, and that share will convert into an absolute right. So that widow will have the absolute right on the particular property where the deceased husband has the share in it. So this is one of the way where you can ask the maintenance from the in-laws also. Widow can ask the maintenance from the in-laws. She cannot be left on the roads deprived of his or her or deprived of her rights and also the basic needs. So these are the remedies. And even there was a judgment in 2019 by Ajay Kumar by the Supreme Court in the Ajay Kumar versus Lata and others, which was a very good judgment that came in newspapers also, that the case where the brother-in-law was also asked to pay a maintenance to a widow under DV Act. So these kinds of judgments have been come up, and which are you can correlate with the problems of the clients if they have a problem related to these kinds of matrimonial disputes. So now what else is that if anybody is aggrieved from the court order or the decree of divorce, the other party can always go to the appeal in that particular order against that order in the High Court, because you have 30 days is there a limitation which has been set in the Family Courts Act, that there is a 30 days limitation has to be there when you have to go into the appeal or against the such order. But then why I am coming up to this, because there is another one thing where you can have the remedy in that also. Because there was a case where my client have got the decree of divorce in another case from the Code of Saket Court, and therein he has the apprehension that the wife will go against the impugned order in an appeal. So what remedy I have? We cannot sit idly and we'll see that when she will go, then we will do it. No, the remedy he had that time, that we have filed the caveat. We have filed the caveat under 148 of CPC in the High Court, stating that I should be heard before passing any interlocutory order against me. What interlocutory order can be passed? Anybody who can assume that? the interlocutory order can be passed against me was that the stay on that impugned order. And the stay, if the stay has been granted on the impugned order without hearing me, I would be restrained for getting the marriage done, second marriage done, and then again there would be applications which has to be moved for removing that, setting aside that stay. So to come up with those, to come in precautions of those consequences, it's better we have moved a caveat in the High Court wherein we were being heard before any interlocutory order was being passed against us. So in that case, the order was not being stayed, and by these kinds of things, the boost also comes to a lawyer, and the client also remains have the faith in the lawyer that you have the knowledge and you can direct and advise in the best possible way, the best possible remedies a lawyer have to advise the client in these particular cases. Because as I told in the earlier also, and I always tell, that matrimonial law practice is not that easy. Reason being, we have to have a emotional quotient also with the client. Generally, clients are so much of inquisitive and they are so much of painful in these kinds of cases that they have already been frustrated. The emotional quotient is so high in these cases that you have to match that also. That they should be fulfilled, they should have a mental balance also, because ये आधा केस लड़ते लड़ते लोग वैसे ही परेशान हो जाते हैं और आते हैं तो वो वैसे ही परेशान होते हैं. So our major role is also to give them some mental balance also. So these kinds of remedies we have. If you have got a judgment in your favor, you can easily move to the court for caveat, for seeking a directions that you should be heard before any interlocutory order is being passed. So in these kinds of things, when the wife approached the court, we have got the notice and she was not being heard before. When it was us, when we go there, and then only the arguments happened on the interim stay of the particular impugned order. So now what else? Coming to the second last of the thing is that the transfer petitions. There are transfer petitions which can be filed by a woman or a man against the cases which has been filed not in her or his jurisdiction. Likewise, if I am staying in Mumbai, I have pursued already 2-3 cases from the court of Mumbai. And my husband has got me summons from the court of Delhi. Then I can easily approach to the Supreme Court for seeking the transfer of the cases from Bombay to Delhi to Mumbai, vice versa. So in that case, you can move to the Supreme Court and ask for the transfer petition, because only Supreme Court have the powers from getting the cases transfer into state. But what in that? There are also grounds in the Supreme Court petitions. You have to mention some grounds in that there are some gravity of the offences that you cannot travel, or there is a apprehension that the evidence can be tampered, or there is a threat being given to you. Some solid and basic grounds should be there so that you can easily come up to the court with good grounds so that they can allow your petition and the case can be transferred. Then there is also one important thing that generally happens in matrimonial is that you have got settlement. The parties have got settled their disputes, because ultimately fate तो यही रहता है कि parties settle कर लेती हैं dispute को. Rarest of the cases हैं जो जाते हैं superior authority तक कि they keep on fighting against the orders. But generally we have more and more cases which have been mediation, because now courts are also more focusing upon coming up with the mediation sector. The Samadhan has been there, pre-litigation mediation is there. What is that? Pre-litigation mediation is also one of the good area where you can cover up with your remedies of the client, where client doesn't want to go with litigation but want to get the matter settled, but then eventually he is not able to get the matter settled through their own panchayat. What remedy you have? You can go in pre-litigation mediation, which gives the platform wherein the litigation has not been come up. Only the High Court can have the notice being issued to the other party and they can come to the High Court mediation center where there is no litigation, only a mediation has been done but before the case has been registered. So this is a good platform where the disputes can be settled. So, but what if the dispute is already there, and the wife and husband had settled their dispute, but still there is a dispute, still there is a violence, still there is a breach of agreement, still they are not abiding with the terms and conditions of the settlement? What remedy you have then? Then there is a remedy of contempt of court. Is that if something you have your other party has done the disobedience and they have not abided with the orders which the settlement has been occurred in the court of law, and they have not abided, so the other party can easily approach the contempt of the court under the Contempt of Court Act, and the notices can be issued in the contempt of court under the Contempt of Courts Act to the other party. So this is also a remedy which you have, because generally मैट्रिमोनियल में ये चीज़ बहुत कॉमन है, क्योंकि आप अपना एंगर, अपनी एंग्विशमेंट, अपनी फ्रस्ट्रेशन रोक पाते नहीं हैं, एंड दे कंटिन्यू टू स्टे फॉर सम or the other reasons, and they will eventually land up with these problems. So contempt is the best remedy therein, and you can again reopen the cases also if you have somehow synodized or if you have withdrawn it. So you can restore those cases. This is also one of the remedy which the other party have against the defaulter party. So now people also ask me that what is the limitation in these kinds of cases. Generally the limitation in the matrimonial matters you cannot count upon, because these are the continuous offences. So you can file the case even after 10 years of your marriage, and so it is a continuous offence just which is happening in these kinds of cases. So you can file the divorce even at the age of 56. I have cases where the clients are at the age of above 50, but still they want to part apart from the partners. So these were the civil sides of the matrimonial. Now we will come to the criminal side of the matrimonial, that what the criminal legal remedy a lawyer can explain, can advise to a client that you should go ahead with these criminal cases concerning with these criminal problems, and coming up with the judgments which can help you and can help your client too. So now criminal side is the most common criminal action first lawyer would advise is 498A, as everybody know कि अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो आप 498A में 406 34 would say मुझे एंड में आना ही आना है, बिकॉज आई एम रेगुलरली डूइंग दीज वेबिनार्स ऑन मैट्रिमोनियल. तो ये क्वेश्चन एंड में आता ही आता है कि मैम CAW सेल में जाएं या DV फाइल करें. लुक, CAW सेल इज एन इंडिपेंडेंट प्रोसीडिंग्स. इज दैट द फर्स्ट complaint which a lady can make is in the CAW cell, which can later be converted into an FIR under various provisions of IPC. But there is also H. Why I am coming to this is that generally होता क्या है कि there was a client who is a good media there in Bombay, but she has recently shifted to Delhi because of some problems with her husband, and she approached the police stations in Delhi that she has filed a CAW cell. But the major problems which a client as a layman faces that madam ये cause of action तो मुंबई में इशू है, आप यहाँ के complaint क्यों दे रही हैं. But I would say, and you can note it down, there is a judgment of Rupali Devi versus State of UP, which came in 2019 by Supreme Court, which held that the 498 is a continuing offence. So you cannot be restrained from filing a complaint in CAW cell from the place of residence where you are currently residing. This judgment has explained beautifully about the pain of a woman which she is already facing in the matrimonial, and then she has been again to face while going in these kinds of proceedings. So you can read this judgment. It is easily available on the Google by Rupali Devi versus State of UP. So 498 is one of the factor where you can go. Then also you can go with domestic violence case, where you have the provisions, as domestic violence case is not a proper criminal, it is a quasi civil, and in that case you can approach the court of law restraining with the restraining orders, and also with the economic orders, also with related to the protection orders. So it's a very good act which came in 2005, which is actually favoring the woman, which says that any woman who has been deprived of economically, like a monetary, or if not been deprived of the social, and also to the he can also be restrained from taking the child out of the jurisdiction of the lady. Only all the possibilities, all the remedies under a one roof. So it's a very good act, and a very good relief you can get under the act, and very speedy act is that. You know, yesterday when I was having a webinar on this, somebody asked me that where the best and where is the most earliest way to get a maintenance to a lady. So I would advise that the best and the earliest way is the domestic violence you can approach, and also the domestic violence act also provides the ad interim maintenance, not only the interim, whereas the ad interim maintenance. What is the difference between the ad interim and the interim? Ad interim is that where you have not been asked to file affidavits on assets and liabilities, which call the income affidavit, wherein if you have a proof of the income of the husband and you are a legally wedded wife, you have a child and you have proof that you are not working, court can prima facie on the first and can ask the husband voluntarily at times also, and also can direct the husband for paying ad interim maintenance without going into the merits of the affidavit of the both the parties. So this is also, but again this is a discretion. I would say it depends upon facts to facts of the cases. It's not that every time or every case can be given an ad interim maintenance. So this is the one of the criminal remedies. Then there are anticipatory bails which can be filed in these with regards to 498A. Now I am coming to the men's side, that what a husband or a man have a remedy if a wife have come up with a 498A FIR. The husband can go for a pre-arrest notice anticipatory bail. We have a provision that the pre-arrest notice can be provided to a husband. What is that pre-arrest notice, and till how much time it can be valid? These are very common questions. I will come up with each and every question and will clear that. The pre-arrest notice is basically where the FIR has not been lodged, only the complaint has been happened. Even if the FIR has been lodged also, but that arrest notice has not been come up. I would say the arrest जरूरी नहीं है FIR हो तो आप immediately arrest होंगे, उसके साथ साथ arrest notice निकलता है तो आप arrest होते हैं. If the arrest notice has not been come up with the DCB, because there was a judgment in Supreme Court which came last year, which says that the immediate arrest cannot be done in these matrimonial matters without going to the matter, without going to the facts of the cases, without going to the gravity of the case. So in that case, the husband can have the pre-arrest notice, working notice of 7 days, 5 days, totally discretionary on the courts, that इस 6-7 दिन के अंदर अंदर आप अपनी बेल दोबारा मूव कर सकते हैं. कभी भी आपका अगर अरेस्ट नोटिस निकलता है तो यू कैन सीक द नॉर्मल बेल अगेन till the time you can totally join the investigation. Nobody will touch you even. So, but then there was a judgment by the Supreme Court in the name of Sushila Agarwal others versus State of NCT of Delhi and others. This judgment has held some actually curtained the uncurtained the basic problem and basic confusion in the case. In the particular point is that whether the anticipatory bail is time bound. No, it is not at all time bound. It is up to till the time you do not receive the arrest notice. And also, yeah, in some point in some cases, court can put some condition upon it. Can put some condition and on the particular that the particular order would be pertaining to the limited duration, but not every time. Generally, these are the bails, these are the remedies, these are the protection orders which are there without any time bound. Then you can, once you have received the notice under the protection period, you can easily move the second step of the bail in the particular case, in the particular file. There was a case, a very good case which come up to me that we have got a bail for my client under 498A because his wife has filed the cases, but then after a year the wife again filed a complaint of rape allegations, and then we have got the anticipatory bail on that particular complaint also. Reason being, she has not moved any allegations of rape in any other cases, even not in DV or not in any other particular divorce matters which have been pending between the party, or any other litigation which have been pending in the parties, between the parties. So these kinds of misuse of 498 is also happening. So that is why the judgment came last year, which says that not immediate arrest should not be there in some cases depending upon the facts. So now with this I forgot to entertain one point there in the civil side, that if the husband and wife were been living in the same roof at the matrimonial property of being purchased by the name of the mother-in-law, father-in-law, so, and the husband has not been continuing to live in that particular property and the wife has moved out of that property, then in that case the court, the in-laws can easily approach to the court for the injunction against the daughter-in-law, and we have been granted the injunction in these kinds of cases also against the daughter-in-law, where the husband is not been residing and the violence has been created and inflicted upon the in-laws, old and aged in-laws. So these kinds of misuse being done. So there are also judgments which are favoring, which are not favoring, depending upon the facts to facts. Now coming on to the last section of the criminal side is that you also can ask for the magistrate to get the directions passed in your case for lodging an FIR to the state, where the section is provided with this. The section is 156(3) CRPC, that 156(3) CRPC के अंदर आप जा सकते हैं, जहां आप अपना प्रोविज़न है ये, जहां आप मजिस्ट्रेट से मांग सकते हैं इन्वेस्टिगेशन and also to direct the police to state to lodge an FIR against the accused. So this is also a kind of remedy where the FIR has not been done. Generally ये मेन साइड ज़्यादा यूज़ होती है क्योंकि मेन सेल डोंट वर्क लाइक दिस, एंड हस्बैंड्स के साथ अगर कोई ऐसा इंसिडेंट हुआ है जो वाइफ या उसकी फैमिली ने किया है और वो डायरेक्टली FIR में नहीं है, कन्वर्ट हो रहा है कंप्लेंट, तो जनरली हस्बैंड्स कैन go for 156(3), and not only husband, because we are coming up with matrimonial. I have done the cases of family law where there have been dispute between the sisters and the brothers. We've been doing the cases where the dispute between the brothers and the brothers, and also to the respect of other cases also. So it can be used in any case, but today we are coming up only with the maintenance and the matrimonial. So that is why I am majorly considering those aspects only. Then you can also go and ask for the maintenance under 125 also. So 125 CRPC also provision which provides that the woman can ask the maintenance, and there is a judgment which came by the Supreme Court in 2019 by Nikhil Dahani versus Tanya Banan Dahani, which says that if the wife has got the relief under 125, then she cannot be precluded from filing any relief under DV, because generally this was the criteria that अगर आपको एक जगह रिलीफ मिला है तो आप नहीं जा सकते. But this judgment came in 2019 by Supreme Court, which says that if you have got relief in 125, so you cannot be precluded in filing the reliefs under DV Act and the other laws also. As I've also told about section 12 of the DV Act, so everybody knows that it is a good combination under a single roof where you can ask for. Then now the coming most important feature of the criminal side, the matrimonial problem, is that perjury. That perjury you can move against somebody who has given a false information on the oath in the court, and this is the most common matrimonial problem which people come across, because यहाँ पे झूठ बोलने की टेंडेंसी ज़्यादा है लोगों को, और इनकम छुपाने की तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा है, क्योंकि अगर अपनी जेब में से 2 रुपये भी देना पड़ता है व्हेन यू आर इन अ डिस्प्यूट, इट साउंड्स टू बी अ बर्डन, अ बिग बर्डन, एंड दैट इज़ वाई वुमेन हैज़ टू गो पिलर टू पोस्ट and for the children and also for the now Janvi, I will take only 5 minutes to wrap up the solution, the whole seminar, just 2 minutes. So perjury is one of the very good option, you can go ahead. Then 2016 there was a judgment of High Court, Sejal Behan Tejasvi versus Chavotia versus State of Gujarat, which says that if you have filed a false information, then you will be penalized. And in one of my case, we have filed a perjury even in the Supreme Court, wherein the transfer petition was being filed by the wife, alleging that she's been residing somewhere, though my client had a proper evidence that she is not residing there. So we have moved the perjury application in Supreme Court in the cases there, which is already going, and she was being scolded in the open court that either she should be taken the case, withdraw the case immediately, or otherwise she will be penalized. So this is also one of the very good aspect where you can file a perjury immediately if you have got to know that the other party has filed a wrong information. It gives a very burdenful and forceful impact on the case, and it really gives it helps your case to be more stronger. Then lastly, I am coming to the section of the matrimonial side, is quashing of FIR. What is quashing of FIR? When you are aggrieved with some contents of the FIR, you can approach the court in quashing of the FIR. There was a judgment by Supreme Court in 2017 by Parbat Bhai, Ahir and others versus State of Gujarat and others, which says that there are some principles which were being laid down for 482 quashing. Generally 498A में quashing हो जाती है, reason being when the matter has been settled between the parties, the matter has been settled, the dispute has been settled, you can easily move to the quashing of the government before the court of law. At times the court are imposing fines also to the parties, because these kinds of cases are non-compoundable, but ultimately they are being quashed due to these going into the gravity of the emotional quotient of the cases, that these are family matters. Whereas in other cases, like if some allegations is upon the POSCO, because there was the case wherein the POSCO FIR was being lodged, the FIR was being lodged under the POSCO Act against the father for his own daughter, that in these kinds of cases the court are not inclined to quash the FIR even if the matter has been settled between the parties, because these kinds of matters are against the state, it's against the society, it's against the welfare of the public. So that is why these kinds of matters not been quashed. But generally 482 में आप quashing move कर सकते हैं, जहाँ पे inherent powers है हाई कोर्ट के पास. If under various provisions of IPC अगर आपकी फाइल हुई भी है, then you can go and ask for the quashing. But there are principles which are being laid down in this judgment and some other judgments also you can come across when you will be coming in these kinds of cases regularly. So they have to see that the matter is of civil nature or not, whether the parties have settled their dispute or not, the gravity of offence is how much. So they have to look some or the other issues while quashing the particular FIR. But of course you can move that. So with this I would be coming to the end of the session. Janvi, let me know what's the next step we can do. Either I have to end this session and have to start this next session for the question and answers, or we have to continue the same. Can you please tell me, Janvi? I hope you all would be liking the session and you would have learned something with that. So by this I would end this session. We would come with the next session in just 2 minutes back with part 2 with question and answers round. So thank you everybody. Just I'll be logging in another 1 minute more. Give me 2 minutes.